First of all, I would like to show you the automated AutoML version. First of all, import all libraries, import the dataset, create the workspace, load the data from the data store. After that, you have to create a compute cluster, create the experiment, and then you can define the AutoML configuration. If you create the AutoML configuration, you can run the model inside Azure ML, and you get already the results of the best model you have doing your run. After that, please make sure to save the model right here. And to make sure that it's saved, you can use the check if the model is located as a registered model. After the AutoML model was trained, I switch the model trained by the hyperparameter tuning. So first of all, import again all hyperparameters, create a workspace, load the data from the data store, create a compute cluster, create the experiment, then you can create the hyperdrive configuration. After that, also run the hyperdrive run. After that, you also get the information what was your best model, but unfortunately this model was not as good as the AutoML model, so I switch back to the AutoML model Jupyter Notebook, so I continue with the model deployment. After that, you can use this code to set up a HTTP REST endpoint with inside Azure. You can see here below the scoring URL and the Swagger URL from our endpoint as well as the status. If you go into the endpoint section in Azure ML, you can see the created service. If you go inside the service, you can see the attributes as well as the deployment state, the REST endpoint URL, the Swagger URL, and if the application inside is enabled or not, but in this case it's not enabled. You can test the endpoint using the test section, or you can use the consume section and get an example how to use it in C#, Python, or R. If I go into the Python section, you can test your endpoint in production. So I have a Jupyter Notebook here for this case, so I import the libraries as well, create some function for the self-signed HTTPS. But here's the most important part. Here we will create the input JSON file for our model API. So I just filled out some example of a user. If I run all these functions, first import the libraries, then run this function for the self-assignment, run these data, and now here's the function to access the HTTP request API. If I run this function, you will get the result printed out here, and it says the result is the class 0, so the classification model says based on our input data, the result is class 0, and that's how the API runs in real time.